Assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome to the Arewa Literature on your channel Integrated Literature. In this first episode, I will be analyzing a science fiction from northern Nigeria titled Bionic Evolution by Salim Hussaini. Salim Hussaini was born in Kaduna, northern Nigeria in 2001, and this is his first novel. So the main characters of this novel are Zakari, or known as Zak, Nebula, and June, and then one of the antagonists, Leo. In Bionic Evolution, planetary bodies form the physical setting. The story begins with the effect of the sun. For instance, on a hot afternoon in a small, quiet town, a family of two bustle around their house. So the sun remains the center of the solar system, even in a story that uses planetary bodies as setting. So Salim Hussaini creates habitats in these bodies. For instance, it says from the book, like its namesake, the root was at the bottom of Avalon and was used as the dump site and junkyard of Avalon. So Avalon is a mythical island. So Avalon, being a mythical island, is upgraded in the sense that two features are added to it: planetarity and gradable habitation. The name given to the immediate setting, the root, leaves the imagination of the reader to imagine habitants living a pauperized lifestyle because it says the root. Although to subvert the idea of congestion typical to impoverished lifestyle, the root is said to comprise factories, shops, and a few houses. So Hussaini subverts Avalon by depicting it not as rosy as its allusion. So not only the root is dangerous, as the narrator reports that for the past week, random citizens of the root had disappeared without a trace. But as Jason, one of the flat characters, narrates to the other children who have been abducted, they came to my town and started killing everyone in it, leaving only children alive. Harold, one of the characters, another flat character, Harold confirms this situation to have been manifesting not only in the root, but in different areas of Avalon lately. So in this way, being far away from Earth under the sun does not guarantee safety. Perhaps Earth is safer since the sun's setting offers respite at different times. Mind you, this novel is not set on Earth. The setting of the novel is in space. So, apart from creating setting from mythical places, Hussaini adds constellations to the setting. For instance, Aquila town is characterized by a subverted African climatic condition by experiencing blizzard and avalanche on Mount Altair. These are two settings. Mount Altair is in Aquila town, and Aquila is a star. So this is a form of imagination that is explained by Samuel Taylor Coleridge by mixing disparate elements. Here, Altair and Aquila are not disparate because Altair is a star in the Aquila constellation. However, the disparity is in creating a habitable space where life does not exist in reality. So, such imagination affects not only the characters but the reader because Hussaini's story is entirely set beyond Earth. Another setting with snow is the star Rigel, which has snow-peaked mountains and deep valleys. Altair is the brightest star in the Aquila constellation, while Rigel is a supergiant star and the brightest in the Orion constellation. So what this means is that the story stretches its imagination in trying to grasp the idea of speculation by selecting objects with the highest value. Hosseini uses earthly architecture in constructing the setting of the book. Bellatrix is the third brightest star in the same constellation as Regal. Therefore, there is a place in the novel called Bellatrix Path, and it is used as the pathway to a town, which is the brightest star at night, Sirius. That's the town, Sirius Town. All other stars are referred to as towns, but not Sirius, as in Sirius Black in Harry Potter. When they enter the town, when Zack enters the town, he sees a lot of banners. One of them reads, "Welcome to Sirius City, where the impossible seems possible." So, considering the fact that the time space of the story is after a robot invasion of Earth in the 2050s, human habitat is upgraded to stars, with Sirius symbolizing a center of human civilization. In another place, he sees a banner which says, "Welcome to the Lost Galaxy." So this symbolizes that all earthly relics and memories are found in Sirius. In fact, that is the only setting where a currency is mentioned, Asteri. Asteri is a currency in the novel, which makes Husseini's text an astronomical text. So the weather in the story affects decisions that are made by characters. The weather also does this by confirming the situation of characters to themselves. For instance, as the victims felt the cool chill of the moon and the light that came along with it for the first time in many months, some wept with joy. The temperature of the moon and its appearance, without particular reference to any day, give a mixture of reactions, that of weeping and happiness. So in this way, planetary bodies in the story are capable of changing the influence of an atmosphere. Apart from the astronomic features in the story, a space plays an important role in effecting a change in the narrative. So, in addition to these cosmic devices in altering the mood of characters and the atmosphere they find themselves in, a space affects the attitude of a character. When Zack visits a place in the route, he sensed the ominous atmosphere. This is in the first chapter of the story, which hints at hostility for the protagonist, Zack. So these places are congested with metaphysical elements that effect a change from the way the reader visualizes a space. Spaces communicated to the reader in Husseini's story tend to have a single dimension. So when one observes the following instance, there have been screams coming from the machine junkyard, that place with the abandoned factories. So a flat character informs the protagonist of this. So the screams give a vision of a desolated area of buildings. In another instance, the protagonist heard moans and screams from some rooms, but he wasn't sure if it was his own fear getting the best of him. So in this instance, sounds can alter one's assumption of a place from certainty to uncertainty, blurring the binary definition of a place, because any place can be either safe or otherwise. So such blurring in the definition of space is made more complicated by using abstract ideas that are not collocated with a space. For example, where Zack is held in the military facility, there is an aquatic chamber pooled with water where abductees are trained after they are transformed into cyborgs. So the narrator describes the chamber in this way: static filled the seemingly endless abyss of water. This is similar to Chomsky. So similar to Chomsky's notion of green ideas sleeping furiously, such scenery seems impossible, or rather implausible. Statics and bottomless water are two images of a deadly scene, whereby the endless body of water implies risk, impossibility, and death, and static, on the other hand, implies disconnection from the shores of reality. Husseini brings another similar yet contradictory image of the chamber. He describes a town as a friendly looking town. In contrast to the imageries that are looking in nature and that comprise Husseini's description from spaces that signify evil to still and vast areas that threaten life. The image of spaces that signify hope indicate a conflict between antagonism and heroism in the narrative. So bionic evolution is set in a series of liminal spaces that are contrastive to each other. Going further, words and colors in the novel there is a motif of words and colors, especially the color blue. The color blue is used in the story in various contexts in order to estrange the reader's perception of the environment. So the color has different connotations when there is no context. Husseini uses the color to show an upgrade from earthly technology. For instance, blue flames of a motorcycle. Blue flames burn hotter than the common red or orange flame. So the story's setting being in the far future outer space suggests that humans have upgraded their technology. So the bluishness of such technology seems to have no explanation, rendering the écriture of some African science fiction texts being elliptical instead of logical. So it is elliptical because it jumps any logical explanation onto the representation of speculative technology. Blue is here the fiery drive of future technology. In another instance, it is the objects that bear blue. For instance, a blue trident crackling with electricity was in its place. The imbuing of electric current to the trident creates a science fantasy trope in the sense that the trident is an object in Greek mythology possessed by Poseidon. Magical relics in myth are upgraded from their fantasy space to a technological space, and blue is the cause of this upgrade. It extends to the switch found on devices that emit electrical powers. So the weapon given to Zack by his uncle Marcus, the weapon given to Zack has buttons in different colors at first, but later the weapon is upgraded to have only one button for the purpose of simplicity, and that button is the blue button. So from the mythical to mechanical and the electrical, blue has become the aesthetics of the story's technology. Zack's transformation into a shark-like cyborg also symbolizes the fusion of myth and technology because Zack is abducted and is turned into a cyborg. So his transformation into a shark-like cyborg symbolizes the fusion of myth and technology and the subversion of African myth as exotic. So the reader is also transported into the blue world through the protagonist's eyes. For instance, his vision was flooded with blue. Equations and loading bars made up most of it with one sentence in the middle: control of AI. So the story proposes futuristic technology in Africa by emphasizing on AI in addition to mechanical and electrical objects. Also, the story uses aquatic language to navigate the causation and process of achieving this kind of technology with words like flooded and vision. In addition to visualization, the human eye in the story is also made blue. Most of the characters have a blue-like eyes. Moving on, sounds in the story, sounds that are indirectly onomatopoeic involve some form of chaos or conflict. For example, when two guards are having a casual conversation about silence, about the silence of the place, the following happens. As if to contradict his statement, the ground started shaking with a rumble accompanying it. Now, there is a problem of creativity here. Such coincidence created by Husseini diminishes the excitement of the suspense because he introduces the phrase as if. So introducing the scenario with as if allows the reader to guess what will happen next. And this is a weakness in the creativity of the author. Noise in other instances is muted no matter the action represented. So resembling cartoons, Husseini's story has various descriptions that involve a lot of noise, whereby the sounds are muted. For instance, when Zack kicks a motorcycle engine, uh, there is no sound described. No sound is described. In another instance, Husseini instead uses the punctuation that accompanies these interjections. For instance, June readied her gun, knowing knowing they had to throw everything they could at Finn. Then there is a exclamation mark in double quotation. With a battle cry, Finn threw himself at Zack. So the exclamation mark here is ambiguous, the same way it appears at the center of two actions that are potentially noisy. Both descriptions of June and Finn's actions are not placed side by side as it is done for any free indirect speech, but above and below the mark, the exclamation mark. So this means that the uncaptured noise is made from the three, Zack, June, and Finn, as they throw themselves at each other. So moving on to characters, Husseini's major characters are all humans, with some turned into cyborgs. The main character, Zack, is among those humans turned cyborgs. There is not much about Husseini's characters having distinct features and carrying out mysterious actions. There are only normal humans and cyborgs. A cyborg, for instance, shooting bullets or laser beams from his hands or eyes does not seem enigmatic enough because that is what a cyborg is, a machine. Also, the only distinct feature about Husseini's characters is the fact that they have names and appearances foreign to Africa. So the description seems to focus more on the eyes and hair of the characters, both round and flat. For instance, ultramarine eyes with gray hair that bordered on silver, brown eyes with chestnut hair, heterochromatic eyes, one orange and the other gray, with dark brown hair, onyx black eyes, and blonde hair. So some have only their eyes described: blue, navy blue, green, and sea green. These descriptions subverted the definition of race from skin color to eyes and hair color. So one striking character is General Leo, one of the antagonists, who is introduced with a description that implies brutality. For instance, he had blonde hair and blue eyes. His skin was slightly tanned. He was well built. The man gave off a sense of brutality. So General Leo's character throughout the story gives one sense: hostility. His unfriendly character is mostly described through his facial expressions. For instance, smiling a twisted, evil smile. General Leo looked at Zack with incredulous eyes bristling, gave a sadistic laughter, smirked, maniacal laughter, malicious laughter, growled, and something like usually evil laugh. All these are instances of General Leo's characterization. So the character of General Leo is an attempt to imitate an evil genius scientist in science fiction. So this attempt is cartoonish due to General Leo's various shades of laughter, which is common in comics. These forms of laughter are summarized through a foil character, Commander Ken, who is the actual antagonist, whom the narrator observed in this way. Unlike General Leo, this guy didn't have a hint of madness in him. So this simply implies that General Leo is a maniac. Husseini's experimentation on names borders on colonial paradigm. All the names, apart from Zachary, the protagonist, are Western. For instance, Chuck, Jason, Marcus Fletcher, Harold Devon, Fane, Zimana Thornbush, Byram Willow, Carmela Rosewood, and the protagonist, Zachary Nebula. So some names also take on English patterns like Rosewood and Thornbush, and Rosewood and Thornbush. Uh, they have the same dual feature of geographical feature that other English names like Heathcliff in Wuthering Heights, Huddleston, the former Aston Villa Tottenham player, and Blackwaters. Names like this, Husseini uses paradigms of such names. So Husseini subverts a creature feminine, what is called a creature feminine, in using Jack Lacan's idea of the structure of language in females. Jack Lacan argues that the way females perceive language is different from the way boys perceive language. So the usage of floral language by a male author on feminine characters maintains the feminist patriarchal continuum by naming Camilla Rosewood and Zimana Thornbush. Other female characters whom Husseini experiments on are the twin cyborgs. They are named April and May. The intended pun turns into a jeu d'esprit, which is another figure of thought, with April and May sharing the same climatic effects on the environment. Husseini's female characters are metaphorized into nature, which by extension reiterates the blossoming quality of womanhood, like Thornbush and Rosewood. Another interesting character is the AI in Zach's cyborg body, Sam. Sam, S-A-M, is an abbreviation. Sam is another abstract character, an AI mutation chip that is installed into Zach's bionic body. Its name is an abbreviation of System Alpha Module, and it is the last of its kind, according to it. Sam's character is that of an inspiration to the protagonist in terms of need. Sometimes Sam behaves exactly like a human with subjective feelings and decisions. During a training session, when Zach tries to run away for safety, Sam chides Zach. Pathetic, running away from a mindless fish. So, unlike other AI softwares, Sam can decide to assist or not. This is a bit ironic considering the fact that Sam admits by itself that I do not know why I was created and I do not know what purpose I am to serve. This makes Sam to behave more human than technology. In a scenario, the story unveils that Sam can actually forget, which is an unlikely character of AI. This subversion of AI is, however, displayed because Sam is teaching a human how to do certain things. For instance, I forgot to tell you, instead of focusing on the water flowing, you need to focus on the water being as still as a rock. So survival in an unexpected situation is not something a computer software is always designed for. In this way, Husseini shows the limits of science and technology. Sam is a more advanced software because it can read not only the thoughts of its host, but the thoughts of other humans. For instance, Sam says, human female is known as June, shortened form of Juniper Devon, has very fragile emotions and can be set off by the slightest of word. This is Sam describing June. So this is a male writer speaking indirectly. The interaction of disembodied characters with humans is influential in the sense that uh, human characters enable a software to behave outside its default settings. From the protagonists to antagonists and flat characters, cyborgs make up a larger part of Husseini's narrative. These cyborgs are used for a single purpose: combat. Therefore, references to cyborgs come in the context of weapons. Humans, children especially, are abducted and taken to a facility to be transformed into cyborgs. The reason for doing this is to travel back to Earth and wage war on the robots who took over Earth. Remember, this story is set in 2050s. So the protagonist, Zack, is also a victim of this abduction and metamorphosis. The experiment on him enables him to transform into a hybridized animal, having the features of a wolf and that of a shark. Other cyborgs are either left in their human form with little transformation or a single breed of an animal, like Finn, one of the antagonists, who can transform into a baboon. The representation of the cyborg in Husseini's work implies the need for counter-invasion. In a metaphorical sense, colonial paradigms and ideology can be used as a counter-colonial discourse, the way General Leo intends to use cyborgs to take back Earth from a purer form of human machine, the robot. In this sense, we could say the self against the other, or the other against the self. So Leo's ferocious nature to undertake this task might have sprung from his reference. His name in other contexts means lion. Husseini estranges familiar animals by the time-space in which they exist. For instance, two sharks the size of an average school bus. It was one of the few species of the animals transported to Avalon from the Earth. So the period of the story's setting is in the far future, where genetics technology is assumed to have gone far. These sharks are able to transform some parts of their body in a similar fashion other cyborg humans can. Husseini's estrangement of familiar animals seems to center on their sizes. For instance, a giant squid, twice as big as a whale, its bionic tentacles were also up to scale with its body. So this resizing of animals is metaphorically an awareness of the ecosystem. In this way, the usage of these animals for training purposes shows in another way human brutality towards nature. Husseini, however, depicts these biologically modified animals as having the capability to fight against human cruelty. The two cats that the twins April and May have as pets are used as fighting companions. As cyborg animals, they can resize their appearances from furry and friendly animals to spiky and dangerous ones. Furthermore, Husseini creates a beast that is a hybrid of animals, of various animals. It says, the description goes like this: the beast looked like the father of all reptiles, as its large black serpentine body moved sinuously in the water. Its scales looked like hard diamonds gleaming in the dull lighting. It had 4 large appendages with 5 claws on each. Long stegosaurus-like spikes. Long stegosaurus-like spikes ran along its spine. So this imagery of the beast is left elliptical to the reader, with expressions such as "like the father of all reptiles." So we can't quantify the size. So this expression leaves the size of the beast unknown, although its shape and main features are fairly vivid. The last sentence, in fact, in the description is rhythmical of the beast's perfect appearance in the mind of the reader. Spikes and spine. It rhymes. It rhymes. So there is a common trope in science fiction movies whereby the last surviving kind of a species or human becomes the protagonist or an antagonist who is trying to save their species by any means. Sam makes the same reference of being the last of his kind. It then continues introducing itself. I belong to the group Nanobot Omega Prototype. I am known as the System Alpha Module. Zach noted the hesitancy. You can call me Sam. So this introduction is similar to when Peter Parker activates Karen, his suit's AI in Spider-Man Homecoming. So this youngster meets AI in their suit scenario is a cliched sci-fi trope. So science fiction is only arriving in Africa, and some of its writers lack the decolonizing attitude towards foreign literary traditions. During Zack and June's adventure, June complains about being in a science fiction movie. June felt sheepish. I'm sorry, it's just this whole thing is exciting. It's like I'm in a crime movie. Also, Zack imitates the finger twisting actions of Spider-Man when releasing web. This is the description. When he passed them, Zack stretched his right hand's middle and thumb fingers while holding the other fingers, making it look like he was about to snap his fingers. When he did, two plate-like objects appeared around his fingers. With as much strength as he could, Zack snapped his fingers, sending sparks flying. So instead of the concrete web that we see coming out from Spider-Man's wrist, Husseini replaces it with metaphysical objects appearing, two plate-like discs. So the stretching and folding of fingers is subverted in the sense that some of the fingers Spider-Man stretches are the ones that Zack folds and vice versa. So this is a poor imitation because it tries to detach itself from the mainstream science fiction movie, but ends up mimicking it. A more obscure allusion to a science fiction movie comes via costume. For instance, in the book, in the description of General Leo, the general turns to one of the scientists. He was of a high rank amongst them. Sorry, the description of a scientist. The general turns to one of the scientists. He was of a high rank amongst them as he had a golden collar on his lab coat. So the position indicator on the collar serves as another version of the Star Trek franchise's actors' uniforms, whereby they have shiny badges. Also, when Marcus, that's Zack's uncle, when Marcus is showing Zack the upgrade he does to the motorcycle he is to give Zack and other weapons, the first thing that would come to your mind as a reader would be MI6 technology. So this sort of thing happens whenever they are preparing James Bond for a mission. Since fighting scenes are part of the tropes that comprise science fiction, the battle between David and Goliath is alluded in this book. So as expected, Zack, the protagonist, plays David and fights a cyborg called Goliath, who is an antagonist. However, the conclusion of the battle between Zack and Goliath ends without a victor, only the vanquished. For instance, the wall of snow closed in on him. That's Goliath. Zack tries to freeze Goliath. So this is the description. The wall of snow closed in on him. Once the snow touched his body, the part it touched froze. Not long after, the barbarian's body was frozen solid. Zack was happy that his plan had worked. Goliath later breaks the ice. So Goliath later breaks the ice that wraps him and keeps his hunt for Zack. Later, they clash in Finn's facility. Finn is another antagonist. They clash in Finn's facility and fight for the second time. Goliath, however, this time meets his death. However, not from a stone, but from Zack's bionic claws. Human physiology is tampered with in the case of cyborgs. This process is represented when Zack is being experimented upon. For instance, the description goes like this. Some parts of his body were left human, like his heart, but they made some modifications to it, like adding a bit of a metal around it. So such cruelty is ambiguous because at once it is non-consensual and at the same time a proof against life-threatening mechanisms, which means the story's textuality represents cruelty, while its contextual background entails protection. Advanced technology, of course, this is common in science fiction. Advanced technology is also explored in this story with the weapons. Now, the weapons somehow have sentience. Weapons are upgraded to perform more than one function. For instance, the long-barreled gun, however, can absorb light while simultaneously polarizing and releasing it, making it capable of firing continuous beams. Mundane weapons defy gravity by shooting bullets at supersonic speed, but weapons in the story we know uh, cross the boundaries of physics by forming their own armory out of nothingness. Also, the power of these weapons is upgraded to having a cosmological force by shooting beams continuously. So, abstract objects are endless, and so are beams. The process of transformation, let's say how parts of a body can shrink or increase in size and transmogrify, is shallow, although Husseini comes close to painting a more concrete picture, unlike other African science fiction texts. For instance, when after Zack's transformation, after Zack's uh, cyborg surgery, the narrator describes Zack. Then some parts of Zack's body started glowing a bright whitish blue. It seemed as if a light was being beamed at him, though it came from within him, and everywhere the light touched, something changed. His skin turned scaly and changed to a whitish blue color. When the light got to his face, he grew a snout the size of a wolf's. His teeth grew in size and became razor sharp. His ears receded in his skull, only to reappear on top of his head like a dog's. When it got to his arms and legs, the bones changed to fit the transformation. So this is Zack after his surgery. So Zack's transformation is simpler because, well, it's simple to grasp because it is a transmutation. His human physique retains its outline. Whatever transformed in Zack is initially a part of him, such as the skin, nose, and teeth. However, the problem of concretizing scientific law persists in African science fiction, especially in this text. So the cause and the source of the light is not known. The light that is beaming in Zack's body is not known. We don't know the cause. Again, there are expressions that show a gap in the illustration of the transformation. The teeth simply became razor sharp without illustrating the process they go through before becoming sharp. The ears only recede, only to reappear in a different form. It's like two ears, the human and the wolf's ear, because they recede, they go inside and then they come out in another place. So we don't know the form of transformation. And the bones which are within the body simply change to fit whatever transformation. So like the incorporation of myth in science fiction, the attempt to fantasize African science fiction into mystery obstructs the science that makes it science fiction. So apart from the body, the upgraded function of different sense organs shapes up the posthuman. Delicate organs like the eyes are upgraded into various forms and functions. The fact that Husseini's characters are having distinct eye colors says so much about the eye. Zack can see through the dark water as if there was a bulb in front of him. That is a description. So the eye is represented in its ideal sense, that is, sight instead of seeing. Sight is stretched to penetrate obstacles in the atmosphere in order to reach farther than ordinary sight. This is the end of my analysis of bionic evolution by Salim Husseini. In our next episode, I am going to analyze another science fiction text from Nigeria. Until then, I hope to have you next time.